the rage of the bull, driving those to madness, chasing fear. Everything that is an obstacle they must run towards as a target. What says no to them is what drives the feeling, the need to overcome the resistance, the walls, the barriers, pushing past to gain entrance, or to attain that which is fickle, right? But where does the whole thing stand when we place each item in our hand? Then how does the bull attract? Is it through this same attractant where it's these things that like to play that game of overcoming all the warnings, all the words floating around, the bombardment of constant surveillance and vocalization and the vision theft taking place? Where the bull's game is to be driven to these places. By these places. But how do we know sure? Knowing sure, do we know for sure? How do we see sure? Am I sure on this? Do I know what I'm talking about? Does it matter that what I draw, what I say, doesn't necessarily capture what I feel? Is it worthwhile for me to continue on trying to grasp something internalized within my soul that I can't express? When I talk about this bull, the madness, when I had a fleeting glimpse of what I thought I felt that I could capture if I simply took up the microphone, where I said, I see these bulls and they chase toward danger. But ultimately, is that what they then attract? Is this forceful opposition? So it's just two bulls rampaging toward each other, each with the motive to gain, but to restrict, whereas they themselves are the red eye, the red light, but in this they wish to proceed forward, but then also attain where they say no, and they also say, yes, I may go. I don't know. But do I know sure? Do I know for sure? How do we know for sure? How do we see sure? Is seeing sure truly only in the ability of the one who is in a place to tell the tale, that the place itself knows the tale being told, and in so doing provides a sure hold on what is being talked about, what is being said, what is being spread, and in so doing any falsity that lays before the one speaking is simply pushed aside as this greater understanding of what's to behold comes forth? Well, if that's the case, then what's sure anyways if it's truly just a story that's told about a thing, providing a handhold for us to use within language our concepts to ascend this spire of footwork that we lay simply by the ability of us to talk and to tell? I can't tell, and I don't know for sure. But I'm trying to see sure. I'm trying to talk about what sure is. Does this mean that there is a best way to say everything that is? In this, there is a best tail to grab a hold of for any a thing, and for us to see sure, to know for sure. We have to try and tell a tale that can be heard with a word. Feeling stupid and absurd. Like, none of this amounts to anything and is worth less than a turd, because a turd can be even thrown on a fire, provide us with fuel. But I still want to talk about those bowls, because I think I know what I'm talking about. Right? It's like every concept is an equation. This equation can be manifest into physical form, and I could just grab it. Right? Maybe I can't afford the concept. Maybe all that we're doing is consuming concepts and equations that manifest. And I passed it by and said, I can't afford that right now. But I'm trying to reach out and grab it, but I'm restricting myself because I know that I can't afford to take it. Because there are other things that I'm grasping, I'm trying to conceptualize. And this bowls, and this knowing for sure to whether or not this is a sure thing is taking precedence. Other things are taking precedence. The feeling that I notice somebody reaching out, pumping ice into my heart. Pulling it out and throwing it up into the mountains for it to just sit there and freeze. And this place keeps taking it. But what about them bowls? Thinking, the bull has the red eye. but it goes to the red. Another bull. But when is a bull done? When is a bull done? Does another bull just take its place, continuing the cycle of bulls? That clash. Does it ever get to the bull? Just continually going where it's a tight fit? Bull fights. But it's ironic, is it not? Because it's two bulls fighting each other, but they love each other. Does that not sound weird? I think that's what I'm trying to get at here. You see, you talk for a minute, you go, you try and climb up this place, you kick some stumps, right? Because it kind of stumps you for a minute, on your way up. And then you sit here and you imagine these two bulls going around in a ring. And then you imagine yourself walking around in the aisle. And it's like, you see the bull. It's just like, oh yeah, I know that what this is. It's a sensation for, this exhilaration, right? But that's just another bull, and it's seeking the same thing, right? And they're circling each other, and they're like clashing at each other, but they're going for each other, right? Now, here's the thing. What is it then to, not heed these warnings? Because there are warnings, but I think that that's why the bull is driven to it, because everybody says that it's a frightful and, a place which is harboring things that are dangerous and should be taken with caution and should be taken minimally and should be definitely heeded. But the more that that's said, the more the bull is driven there. But then, is the bull's heart ever taken? Is that what all these warnings mean and lead up to? Is this point of where this thing that was driven by these things, but then ultimately it does fall and the warnings became true. But what does the bull see in this case? Does it experience what the express warnings themselves stated in the bull's eye? Or is it some other manifest form of this thing which is counteracting through nature with the bull, right? And when the bull no longer can handle this force, then it leaves the ring. Or is it taken up by another thing and drawn and quartered, and it's castrated, where, the ball and chain takes effect, where it's been lulled into this sweet slumber of sirens. But how do we see sure? Can we talk so surely that it's as though we have molded something before us that we can grab a hold of with our hands? Or are all words simply like putty? But then, can we not say that putty itself can be made into immaculate sculptures? And that there are definitely some sculptures which reach a personification of ideals that are more surely definitive rather than those which are lacking in definition? Then could we not say that truly to see sure, it does lie within the ability of one to spin a tale? Are the best tales simply retold then, being the truths unbound by time and by location? Then what are the unknowns? What are the mistakes? What are these lesser forms of things than sure? Are they simply just other things because these definitive tales do exist? Could we not say that everything could be spun into a definitive tale if it is simply molded and shaped enough? Could anything become this definitive form? Could we then see anything surely? How do we know for sure? If all sure is, simply has to do with whatever's being done. But then, could we not say that there are things that could be sure anywhere? And then if we apply those things, they give us sure footing. And then with that sure footing, we can go anywhere and see anything. Surely. Whatever it is that we speak, whatever it is that we wish to come across, we take these sure things and we use them to ascend to a place and see anything surely, where everything can be sure. Maybe it's not lacking that I say anything can be made sure. Maybe it doesn't detract from the sure when anything can be made sure. Because then we can say that everything is sure, everything can be sure. And in that place, we can say that we can see sure. But is it a sadness? Is that then surely why there is a place where we feel we aren't sure? Because we're sure that everything that could be told is simply the same thing that's always been told. These same sure things. And so there's the place for the things that are unsure, even though they themselves are a sure thing, because they make us feel unsure, is a way to reinvigorate our sureness when it comes back across to us. Oddly enough, the sure is like the beachfront, this sandy place where there's water right there. But if I, say I'm too sure, there's too much shore, then I'm almost stranded in a place where there's water and sand, but the water I can't drink and I can never reach dry land because the rip tide is continually sucking me back and back and back, and fresh water lies inland, where maybe fresh water isn't sure, and salt water is, because the more sure I am, the more shore there is, but I'm further away from inland, and I'm simply out towards the sea. And maybe I see sure, and I sit here and say, I am sure, I know, there is no doubt. I am the most confident thing in existence. But in this place, where is the fresh water, and then do I die? Is that why death is where when people say we see all that is, we know all that is, we are sure, we see sure? If I say I am sure, if I use too much sure, and I drive myself away from where things are not sure, where things allow there to be mistakes, the mist which floats up and condenses into clouds and rains down upon me, feeding my soul and spirit and providing me with the ability to grow and to feel alive. Because I let go of having to be sure, having to be right, and the shores receded, and the rip tides stopped their ripping waters from pulling me under into the salt, which is this place of continually exchanging concepts of altruism and alternativism, which just leads to there never being any one way, ultimately drowning in its depths, then being the only way, where these concepts and these sureness of ideals of existent features of reality and the same stories being told lead one to just become incapable of having a soul and a spirit, where you are dried out by the salt as a skeleton. Drinking the sea water, you see water. You see the structure of what it is that drives the mechanism behind it all. And in seeing sure, you're now sure. But was it worth knowing? Was it worth knowing so that you couldn't feel? You no longer feel, but you know. But is not feeling and knowing, is not feeling enough? Is not leaving the sure behind, going inland to where all these things can condense into a mist, and I can be lost. And I can drink that water. And I can enjoy going to the shore, but making nothing of it. And I can swim out to sea, and I can drink the sea water, and I can see water, and I can love it. But it's all fresh water because I'm not obsessed with the shore. I'm simply seeing shore. But I'm not overstating my sureness.